Computer. What's up, everybody? It's Ronnie George, and Tara Gilcrease has graced me with a presence today, and we are going to be talking about converting online leads. Tara has absolutely been crushing it when it comes to following up with leads, whether it's from Facebook, the website, and even just in general staying in touch with people like from Zillow and stuff like that. So I think that you're probably one of the best when it comes to following up and staying with people consistently. So I wanted to see if we could deliver some value to those watching the video today of like, what's some really useful tips that they could take away and easily implement, and how have you been able to be so successful with converting those online leads from like a cold lead to now they're your client and sending you referrals?
Well, it just takes a lot of consistency in a sense where you have to be prepared to actually keep up and follow up with the people. So what I've done, and it may not work for everybody, but I'm a list type of person. I have on my calendar a time blocked 2 to 3 days a week where all I do during that hour, hour and a half, whatever I can, is I follow up, whether it's texting, emailing, sending a message, whatever it is. That's pretty much what I make sure that I do. And my thing is, it doesn't always have to be the same exact thing. So I block my time in the morning. So like on Tuesdays and Thursdays are my times to be able to go through and follow up.
Mm-hmm.
I put it on my calendar, make sure that I have it done. I also go through and like on Follow Up Boss or pretty much any CRM, I would assume, would have a time where, you can do the
task.
Yeah, the tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a place where I can put a reminder. Then it emails me. So if for some reason it's a time like not my usual follow-up time, I'll get an email and I don't get the email until I've done the follow-up.
Right.
So I have to keep that manageable for me, and that's honestly the main way that I do it. Is I have to have my list, I have to have my time slot, or I won't ever do it because you get busy and all of that.
How long do you normally spend following up on those couple days?
Normally it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
So really short.
Yeah.
And is it all like phone call, or is it all like text and email?
A lot of them have been text and email. My problem is I have my son with me, especially during the summer now. So mornings are okay. That's pretty much when I try and do it. Evenings are almost impossible for me just because it doesn't work for my schedule.
Right.
Lunchtime has been a really good time to get in touch with people because they're on their lunch break. And I can sit there for a few minutes and, send a couple of texts or anything like that through there.
Right.
So that has been helpful. But in my opinion, you have to find the schedule that works for you. You have the time of, people tell you from 8 to 10 is a great follow-up time. And then from 4 to 6 is great follow-up time. That doesn't always
Everybody's
work.
different. Yeah.
So I just make sure, I make it manageable for me. So I'm not stressing out about, I didn't get to because, or things like that. It really depends on what's going on and how I can manage it. So.
Right. So just to make sure I'm understanding you, essentially, these are what you usually do for just your follow-ups. And do you use your initial conversation for these things too, to where you're like, oh, I need to get in touch and reach out to these people? Do you do it at the same time?
Yeah, that's all pretty much at the same time.
Okay.
Or as I think about it throughout the day. I mean, there are some that you're working with regularly, that you're going to get in touch with more often. But the ones that, are cold going into warm, or, we talked to them last year, they're getting ready this year, that's when I really do the main follow-up is on, those days. And it changes. Some weeks, if I have stuff going on Tuesday and Thursday, I do it on Monday and Wednesday. It just kind of depends.
And I think that's a good point. So just to recap for everybody trying to pay attention and implement some of this, essentially, Tara's just spending a select amount of hours each week to just touch and constantly nurture leads that are not ready. They might be ready 3, 6, 9 months down the road, but she's staying in touch with them, and in such a way to where you keep top of mind, or at least just being aware of like, oh, wow, I have this agent reaching out. And it could be a simple little follow-up. Hey, how are things going? I'm assuming, just basic little things. And I would recommend that same approach too, because I think text would be the best way to do it, because it's more convenient for them, because they don't want to have a phone call, especially if they're not buying until 9-10 months down the road. A simple text is perfect. And I think that fact, now here's the other thing. So 2 to 3 hours spread out, 1 or 2 times, and more people can do it more. It doesn't matter. You could do it less. It's all about that focused energy. And I like that you're flexible with it, and you're right. It's what time works for you, that you can be consistent with it. So I think we kind of got a basis on that. Now, 2 different things. On your follow-ups or your initial communication, how are you initially reaching out? Like, what does that look like, whether it's a phone call, text, or email when you connect with them? And then also when you're communicating with those nurtures, how do you know when that person's ready to start taking it to the next level, to get in touch with the lender or start looking at properties? How do you transition from the nurture stage to the actively showing properties? So 2 things on that, your input.
Okay. Well, at the very beginning, I pretty much just reach out and introduce myself, and then I'll say, something about, well, I noticed it depends on which one it is, but, I noticed there was a house that you were interested in. Do you have any questions about it? Or if it's one that they just asked about one specific house, I'll say, hey, is there any other criteria? It depends on, the messaging back and forth with that too. But a lot of times it's very short and sweet, introduce myself, get into it, and then talk to, kind of rate it off of what they're wanting and what they're doing.
Right.
So
it's just about getting them to respond, right?
Right.
And I agree with you, because exactly, because I would always do the thing of like, hey, we saw you had signed up. Are you by chance actively looking or just browsing for the time being? Short, sweet, to the point. Your whole goal, and I think you realize that too, is just to get them to respond, because even if they don't like the home, you're like, hey, not a problem. Would you mind telling me a little more about what you were looking for? And then it's literally the conversion from there. Then you segment them into, oh, they're looking now, they're looking in the future, they're looking next year. And then you go into your follow-up, right? So how would you transition someone who's been looking and been nurtured for like 8-9 months, and you've just been casually texting? What indicators do you feel that person puts out to you that you pick up on, or do you just ask them? Like, how do you transition that?
It really depends. Most of the time I just ask them, after a while I'll ask them, hey, how's everything going? Just wanted to check in to see where you were at in your search. If they start replying back and saying, hey, I'm getting close, or I'm almost ready, or credit score is almost ready, things like that, then I'll go ahead and say, well, why don't I go ahead and set you up on a search? And that way we can start looking at houses online, which is always kind of the first step anyway.
Right.
And from there, if they start looking, I can look on my matrix to see, okay, they're looking every day, they're getting ready.
Right.
And then I'll go in and say, hey, by the way, here's a couple of lenders, if you want to go ahead and get started on that. I'm not a pressure salesy type person. Right. So it's always, based on, how they're contacting with me. I'm not going to keep badgering them or anything like that. It's more of a helpful type thing. I want to provide that service, not
right. If you come at it like a concierge, like you're literally just there to assist them, I think people feel that ease of, lack of pressure, and give you more information, because they don't feel like you're treating them like a number, especially the ones that have been nurtured, because they want to know that they're being taken care of. I'm curious, do you try and set up, like, say for instance, if someone's looking at properties, do you try and set up a consultation with them, or have like a phone call with them to kind of give them a breakdown of the process? Like, how do you transition from looking at houses or sending stuff on emails? I would assume they'd be like, hey, I like these, and you'd be like, perfect, let's set up a showing and go from there. But what would be your advice from, have you wasted a lot of time doing that and working with people that weren't really ready? Or would you recommend to try and have a conversation with the people to explain the process and make sure they're pre-approved? Like, what's your approach and what's worked for you?
I think that depends on the clients as well. If they want to see one house, I don't mind showing them one house and then having that conversation at that house.
Right.
because that face-to-face really helps a lot. You know, over the phone, they can get distracted, or you don't know if they're really paying attention, and all of that, just because it's a lot of information you're giving at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So a lot of times I like meeting at a house and saying, you know, hey, is this something you would like? Well, let's go into, you know, this is what the steps that we need to take. You need to talk to a lender. You need to, you know, get pre-approved. Then we can start looking at more houses. And I, you know, kind of approach it from the seller's point of view as well, of you don't want to, you know, ask a seller to leave their house if you're not ready to buy yet, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
And people really start understanding from that point of view of, you know, it's not coming from me if I don't want to show you houses because you're not pre-approved. It's
Right.
really do take their time getting out of the house, having it ready. And if you're not ready enough to get that pre-approval, you know, that way you can have, or you're not quite ready to start looking at houses. And it also goes with, you don't want to start looking at houses, you know, lower or higher. And then that way you're wasting your time as well. I kind of go as wasting time, you know, on both sides or anything like that.
Right. Because
I never want to be pushy or anything with it.
right. And I think that that's definitely, and that's the other thing too. Now, a lot of people might, not a lot of people, some people might question this because most are told to have a phone call, get them into the office, have a consultation, you know, all this stuff that, you know, put the pressure on them because it seems like most companies nowadays push the agent's time and agenda before the clients. And I've never really agreed with that. And it doesn't seem like you do either. And it seems like it's working well for you. So what kind of numbers, and I'll bounce back on that, but what kind of numbers are you kind of seeing from this method? Like, do you have an idea of what your conversion rate could be on how many people you're staying in touch with and how many are like that you've been nurturing or turning into clients? What does that look like to actually show that your method and methodology actually works?
I don't have like an exact number, but I would say probably 30 to 40% at just kind of spitballing, just over the year and everything.
Right.
I've had several from last year that I was talking to that were not ready. They were just kind of browsing. That's what most people do. They start looking online, and it may be a year, it may be 2 years. But some of those people are ready or getting ready seriously this year. So there's probably, if I had to guess, 8 to 10 of them right now that are either getting pre-approved or they're almost there, you know, by the end of the summer, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's just from last year.
But here's one thing I don't want you to get off track on, which I made the mistake of, and I see that what you could be doing too. You eventually end up gearing your entire service towards people that need to get ready and need to take steps. So you end up alienating the ones that are ready, that don't need to take the steps and don't need the advice. So you come at it with this more concierge approach, but others might see it as not as aggressive enough because they might understand the process. So I would, I guess, try and get you to, when you're having those conversations, of almost try to be more aggressive with something, like, you know, push them a little bit more and kind of test where they are. Like, you'll know the ones that aren't really ready. They'll give the resistance, and then you naturally fall in there. But others, they'll like, they're like, yeah, we've already been pre-approved and stuff like that. And they might not necessarily want the small talk of like, hey, how's it going? How's this or how's that? I would almost, and I don't have the best way to say it because I know that I never really did it. I just know that it's an observation of like, it could be like, hey, a home dropped on, you know, in the market, 20,000. Are you trying to wait till you find the right deal? Is there any particular reason why you haven't found a home yet? Are you looking for a specific area? Like, I would try and gear it more towards those people that know exactly what they want and they're waiting, because when they'll execute and call whoever and get it because they understand the process and they're really just waiting for the right house to come up. So if you attach them in such a way of like, you know, hey, I just want to help you. Here's some negotiating tips on how to get the best deal when you're ready to present the offer. That's going to appeal more to them as opposed to here's the steps of the home buying process, you know? So just know that everybody's at a different mental state of the process moving forward. Some are more educated, some are less educated, and there's a lot more that are less educated, and you naturally will go towards that direction. But also remember, that's where most agents gravitate towards too. They're all about first-time home buyers and educating and helping them. But you need to raise yourself to become an expert to talk about how your top 10 negotiating tips get the best deal for your clients, and speak directly to those people that are looking for aggressive, knowledgeable, innovative agents, and make it a clear difference as to why you're better than everyone else, in the sense of you get better deals, or how you're negotiating, favored your client, stuff like that, that those people might appreciate, because the other ones don't even care. They're like, I just want a house. You know what I mean? The other ones want a deal. They want a deal, and they want to know that you are a representation of them, in the sense that you're aggressive, you're going to take care of them, you're seen and respected in the community of like a knowledgeable agent, so it's a good representation. So I would try and like almost split those, so that way you don't always, because you'll eventually get burnout of just dealing with buyers of like, I'm hating staying in touch with people for 8, 9, 10, 11. It'll get old, like within a couple years. So but if you're constantly elevating your expertise, you'll get those people that are ready to buy in 2 or 3 months, that are just looking for the good deal, and they'll come to you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So, no, I think that was a lot of information on how you follow up, how you convert it. I think that you're spot on with your approach of adjusting to what the client wants of, all right, we'll go see this one. And then that gives you a chance to fill out that client, and then see if they connect with you. And then you'll naturally connect with certain people. So I think that's a very smart approach too. And I like doing that same approach when it comes to a lot of it. So I guess going in the future, like, where do you see yourself kind of expanding your brand? Like, are you going to expand your team, or are you going to create a team? Are you going to bring on staff? Like, are you happy with what you're doing? Like, what's your goals moving forward over the next, 18 months?
Well, our plan is actually for my husband Jacob to come on, and that way we can be the team. And then eventually, when we're ready, we might start getting more people on our team, so that we can, keep going and help other agents, and, go from there and everything. We're still kind of getting everything settled and getting situated, but that's kind of the plan going forward. Making sure that we can just come in and dominate.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a smart approach, is just ease into it, see where it goes. Because, like, you just were an agent last year. So, it hadn't been forever. But I think that my other advice would be to start documenting your processes, because you want to pay attention to what you're doing right. And you want to be able to replicate that, because when you bring on other people, you want them to essentially be an extension of you. So if there's something that you do that you feel that clients appreciate, write and document that process down, like a step-by-step, to be like, hey, step 1, here's how I reach out to people. Oh, here's a follow-up that I do. Oh, here's a follow-up message that I send. Here's my process if I don't hear from them. So it's literally rinse and repeat, and you can hand off that process for someone else to follow and implement. So that way you're not constantly telling them what to do. But I know you have a background in how to do all that stuff. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is start documenting your process and what makes you so special and different, that why someone should work for you or come and work with you specifically. So the more that you can talk about the benefits that you're able to provide a client, and why you can do it better, and how you're going to do it better, and it forwards and backwards, that's just going to get more and more people to come directly to you. Okay. So that would be my encouragement, to just really dial down on what you're the best at and what you feel that you do, whether it's your aggressiveness, your marketing, your style, your branding, whatever it is. Accentuate it and just shout it, because those people are naturally going to be attracted to you. So the more that you know who you are, the more that they're going to be able to be gravitated towards you. So, so that would be. Yeah. So either way, I appreciate your time. I don't want to keep rambling on. I know we can go on and on about different stuff, but I appreciate the value that you've been able to provide. And I think you're doing an amazing job, and it's definitely showing in the numbers. And any questions you have for me, or other than that, I mean, I'm going to wrap this bad boy up.
Yep, that's all. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, and you have a good one.
All right, thanks, you too.